Hello, Life Church, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're so excited to have you here. And if you look in the background, what a familiar place. This is Water Spring Elementary School. Now, if you've never been to Life Church before, you probably don't recognize it as a church. It's more of a school, right? Well, this is actually where we meet on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, or at least when the government lets us. So here we are, thought we'd go to a familiar place. And as we're sitting here, I couldn't help but think, what do I miss about elementary school? And I started to think about those big pans of square pizzas. You know what I'm talking about, the breakfast pizzas where you have sausage on top, just enough for you to be full in the morning and then have a chocolate milk carton to go with it. Maybe most of you are missing that same pizza I'm talking about. Or maybe you're missing a friend or a teacher or maybe an activity. I know I miss the naps, or at least I don't remember them. I'm sure I miss them. But if you could, we just ask in the comments, please tag someone that you miss, or please put a favorite pizza that you miss, or a favorite meal, or an activity. We just want to know what it was like for you in elementary school. So just give us an idea there in the comments below. Share with us what you miss from elementary school. Now, we're out here tonight because we're starting a new series, and it's called Restart. We're going to do this series for the next couple of weeks, and really what we're going to talk about is reclaiming what God has for your life. What a cool series, and in the middle of a pandemic. This is an awesome opportunity to talk about those things that we need a restart on. So you'll see different people each and every week, and we'll have different topics for you. But tonight I just want to kick that off. And so I take you back to junior year in high school. And it was a crazy time, and I was going to work. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon. Now I need you to understand, on the way to work each and every day, on my right-hand side over here, there was a shopping center. And then on the left-hand side, there'd be a middle school. And there was only one thing that separated the two, and that was obviously the street with the walkway and the light right there. And it had a stoplight, obviously so students could pass back and forth. Now that stoplight was only operational in the morning and in the afternoon, obviously when kids were coming and going to school. Any other time, it's always flashing yellow. And so there I was, driving in the afternoon. I had my windows down. Most of you don't know what that's like to have your windows down and actually enjoy it. You know, in Florida, it gets so hot, you have to worry about getting a heat stroke or having a heart attack. But not in the Midwest. That wasn't anything we had to worry about. There was cool air, even in the summertime. So it was nice to roll my windows down. I'm flashing back and I'm thinking, was that Shania Twain? Was that Beyonce? I can't remember. It might have been the national anthem. Whatever it was I was singing, I was listening and I was cruising. And this particular afternoon, I heard the brakes in front of me slam and squeal, and I could smell the rubber on the tires. And I look up and it was too late. That unfamiliar scene, I'd never done it before, but I ran into the person in front of me, crashed into his car. I totaled mine and I totaled his. Now I was frustrated because that light was yellow. Flashing yellow, just like it always is. 4:30, every day going to work. School's out, there's nothing to worry about. I look around, no pedestrians, no one's trying to cross. Everything's normal. And so I get out, I'm frustrated, and I look at the gentleman and I'm gonna let him have it. No, I changed my mind. I'm gonna be nice to him. But I was frustrated. And so I get up and I see, and he says, let's call the cops. Let's settle this, let's pass our insurance information. And I said, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I just, for my own glory and my own pride, I had to look up. And I looked up, and you guys won't believe it, but the light was red. And I was so angry, but I was also so sorry. I can't believe that I was frustrated with him when this was actually my fault because I wasn't paying attention. And I looked up, and we exchanged information. I'm looking through his driver's license. I'm recording it. And when I look, you'll never believe what I saw. The last name shared the same last name as one of my best friends. And so I had to ask, hey, do you know such and such? And he looked at me and he said, that's my grandson. So of course, I now miss my work shift. I totaled my car. I totaled his car. And not only did I do all that, I ran into my best friend's grandpa. You've got to be kidding me. What a day that was. And I look back on it and I get so frustrated still to this day that I got caught sleeping at the wheel. Now I want you to hold on to that for just a moment, because we're going to talk about something that you've probably heard recently. Probably heard it at Life Church. I know Brent talked about it Sunday. Even last week, Mike talked about it. If you missed the midweek devotions, and each and every day last week, there was a set of 4. You need to go watch those if you haven't, because Mike did such a great job last week. But this is a story of Jesus, and we talk about his crucifixion and his resurrection, but I want to talk about just what happened before. Something that's a turning point, something that's very vital that we need to catch if we're going to restart things in our life. So I ask you tonight to turn to Mark chapter 14, verse 32. I'll give you just a second to get there, and I'll read it out for you. And they went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took with him Peter and James and John. And he began to be greatly distressed and troubled. And he said to them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch." And going a little farther, he fell on the ground and he prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." And he came and he found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went and prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and he found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. And he said for the third time, and he said to them, "Are you sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." Now, I don't know if you caught all that because a lot is happening. But Jesus is going up and he's praying and he's talking with his Father and he's taking 3 of his closest friends with him. And he says, "Hey, I want you guys to see this. I want you to see what I'm going through. I want you to see what's coming. I want you to see how I handle it. I want you to be awake for the whole thing." What a cool thing in the first place to be chosen by Jesus to come and experience how he's talking to God, how he's talking to his Father, what he's dealing with the night before he's about to be betrayed and go on the cross. What a crazy thought. Now let's not forget the intensity that's here, because it says that Jesus was sorrowful and he had all this tension. I'm sure there was anxiety and different thoughts that were pressuring into his mind. You see, Jesus was battling with his flesh during this moment, because most of us would think Jesus is obviously supernatural. And a lot of times we think he's a superhero, right? We don't know what he's gone through, and we didn't really care as much because we knew he had to go through it. You know, and it's so easy to think that someone from God, someone that came from heaven would be able to do this. And yeah, we feel bad for him, but did he really suffer? I mean, looking at it, obviously God would have taken some of that pain away from him, right? Wrong. Don't forget that Jesus was 100% human. And this prayer right here and this time he spent with his Father was so crucial to that entire day. It was so important for you to understand that even in the other Gospels, it mentions that Jesus was sweating blood. There was drops of blood coming because of his anxiety and his anxiousness and his sorrows. You know why he felt sorrow? Because he literally had the sin of the world on his back. He felt so bad. Not only for that, but he knew his friends were about to betray him. Think about everything that was happening. And so Jesus is talking with God and he's talking with his Father and he says, "I know that your will be done, not mine. And I know that's right, but I just want to double check with you. This is still the plan, right? Take this from me. I don't know if this is what we want to do. Is that what you want from me, God? If so, I'll do it." And sure enough, God says, "Yes, this is what I want you to do." And so Jesus says, "Yes, I will do that." Now, the reason that's important is because that night, Jesus let the Spirit win. Jesus let the Father win. He did not give in to that flesh and that temptation. So the reason he had confidence to win on the cross and go into the next day is because he already won the battle the night before. And as we look at this, not only was that important because we need to know how to fight these battles, we need these things when we restart different areas in our life. But look at the disciples. He took Peter and James and John with him. And what happened? They fell asleep. Now, any person in that situation would fall asleep. You're tired, it's late at night, you just had the Last Supper, you're hanging out with Jesus, everything's good. Not only are you hanging out with Jesus, you're in the middle of nowhere, it's dark, and you've got God on your side as well. Win-win. I'm probably sleeping too because it's about to be a big day the next day, and it's not going to be a fun one. So as you're sitting there, they're probably thinking, we can rest. And Jesus tells them over and over again, 3 times in this short period of time. He says, "Do not fall asleep because the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing." And each time they fell asleep. Now, why was that important? Because they fell to that temptation. As Jesus is betrayed, we see them come to arrest him. And in verse 50, I'll read this for you. And it says, "And they all left him and fled." This is talking about the disciples. They left Jesus in his biggest moment of need, in his time of weakness. They said, "I can't be here for you." Now, why is that? It's because they didn't stay awake, because they weren't paying attention, because they weren't praying and spending that time with God, and they weren't watching and doing as Jesus asked. You see, in that moment, they let the flesh win. And just like I had in my car accident, I was on cruise control in my life. Now, we all get to that moment where we think, just like the disciples did, everything's good. I've gone to church, I've prayed a prayer, I'm hanging out with good people, I'm doing good things, my job is going great. And we get in that moment of cruise control until we crash. We hit that moment where we say, oh no, it's too late. Because maybe our relationship went bad and we just lost our best friend. Or our marriage is bad and our spouse just left. Or maybe our relationship with God has been sour and we haven't been there with him the whole time and our spiritual life is dead. And it takes that accident, or it takes that bankruptcy, or it takes whatever it looks like in your life to wake you up. And the whole time Jesus has said, stay awake. Now maybe you can't relate to that. You don't know what it's like to drive. Maybe you've never been in a car accident. Maybe you've never cruised through before, not paying attention to anything around you. Well, let's talk about something we're all going through. Let's talk about this pandemic. Now, most of you have seen these around, and this is a mask. Now, this mask is given to us through many different avenues, the stores, the hospitals, someone in your family. That's not really what matters. What matters is we're being told that we need to wear these by the CDC. And the reason we wear these is because it's supposed to protect us. In a time where everything around us seems to be falling apart, disease seems to be spreading, they say a mask will help us and protect from any infectious disease or bacteria in the air. Now that's cool, but they also give us other guidelines. Stay 6 feet apart from the closest person next to you. Watch out what's happening next to you. Don't bump into somebody. Spray down your counter, spray down your cart. Use Lysol, disinfect. Stay alert so that you don't get this disease. Well, I'm here to tell you this evening that God's asking you to stay alert. He says, put on this spiritual mask. He's saying, I don't want you to fall in temptation. I don't want you to fall asleep. And I don't want you to catch what Satan has for your life. I want you to catch what I've got for your life. And in order to do that, you have to stay awake. You have to restart. Maybe you're right there where I told you, some of you have been before, and maybe you're there tonight, where you're at that point where you hit rock bottom. Something went bad. Something sour in your life. You feel like you can't win or you can't get back to what you had before. And that might be true, but I want to tell you that God's got something better for you. You just have to be willing to stay awake and hear it from Him. Now, some of you are probably good. Life's great right now. Nothing's happened. You've got your job, you've got your wife, you've got your friends, you've got your money. You know, you're on cruise control. You feel like your relationship with God is great. Well, I'm telling you tonight, stay awake and stay alert. Don't fall asleep. This would be the easiest time to do it. Some of us have nobody around. Some of us have someone around, but that's that person we're fighting with. We have those thoughts of depression and anxiety, those thoughts that we're fighting, just like the disciples were fighting their sleep and those thoughts and temptations at night. So I'm telling you today, whether you're asleep, whether you're awake, it's your choice to restart, to reclaim what God has for your life in whatever area of your life that is. And so as we go in this series the next couple of weeks, make sure that you're paying attention to those different areas. And I just want to say that I love you guys and I'm praying for you. So put on this mask, go out there, and let's fight together.